I used to think I had a boring marriage. The kind of life where you argue about thermostat settings and forget anniversaries until the next morning. There were no dramatic fights, no passionate reconciliations, just the humdrum rituals of adulthood. Work, dinner, Netflix, bed. Repeat. Boring, sure. But boring meant steady. Safe. Familiar. I never thought boredom could be a trap. Her name is Tara. We met in college, both chasing creative degrees with impractical dreams. I landed in digital marketing, she bounced between graphic design, lifestyle blogging, and part-time retail. She always needed a creative outlet, which was fine, I just never realized how quickly she could turn our life into one. It started the week Dylan moved in upstairs. He came with a trailer full of designer furniture, a wireless speaker that thumped bass through the ceiling, and a jawline sharp enough to cut drywall. I saw him once, unloading a brushed steel lamp while wearing a V-neck tee so tight I thought it might be painted on. He waved. I nodded. That was it. The next day, Tara told me she met him in the hallway and offered to help him unpack. I didn't think anything of it. The second day, she brought up his interior layout. Poor guy's trying to do a minimalist industrial vibe but his lighting is all wrong, she said while scrolling through Pinterest. By the third day, she was going upstairs for quick visits, with a glass of wine in hand. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I worked from home, glued to client calls and campaign analytics. Meanwhile, she was just being neighborly, right? But then I started noticing the prep. She'd spend longer in front of the mirror before heading up. Makeup that she never bothered with for our dinners. Red lipstick. Highlighter. That little spritz of perfume she used to save for special occasions. She wasn't dressing like someone moving boxes. She was dressing like someone hoping to be noticed while doing it. I told myself it was nothing. She needed something to do. And Dylan? Maybe he was just lonely and didn't have friends in the building. I told myself a lot of things back then. But small cracks started forming. They always do before the break. Tara's visits upstairs got longer. First 10 minutes. Then 20. Then nearly an hour. Once, she came back barefoot, holding her heels and laughing to herself. She didn't notice me standing in the hallway. She didn't offer an explanation. I started tracking the pattern. I'd hear the creak of the hallway floorboards, the light closing of our apartment door, and the subtle click of the upstairs unit opening. And when she came back, something always felt changed. A looseness in her body. A glow. A strange combination of restlessness and satisfaction, like she'd scratched an itch I never even knew she had. I stopped kissing her hello. She stopped noticing. One night, I checked our shared calendar app. She'd blocked out creative time for the next 4 afternoons. That was new. We used to block time for groceries and dentist appointments. Not secretive pockets of the day labeled vaguely. I brought it up once. She brushed it off, said she was brainstorming for a new podcast idea. I nodded. I didn't ask more. That's when I started counting. Every time she left, I watched the clock. And every time she came back, I noted the changes, the smudged lipstick, the soft humming under her breath, the way she'd take a long shower even if she wasn't sweaty. It didn't make sense, unless you let your mind go there. Which I did. Quietly. Often. Alone. Still, I had no hard proof. Just suspicion. And in marriage, suspicion without proof is like gas without a match. Uncomfortable, but not yet destructive. Then fate handed me the match. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I just finished a pitch call when the building group chat buzzed, elevators down until further notice. Use stairs. I stepped out into the hallway, heading toward the trash chute, and heard the distinct echo of heels clicking up the stairs. Tara. Dressed in her favorite off-shoulder blouse. carrying a tote that had no weight to it. I wasn't even trying to be stealthy. The groceries in my arms rustled with every step as I followed her up the stairwell. But she was too caught up in herself to notice. She had a bounce in her walk I hadn't seen in months, not since that trip to Charleston, when things between us still felt like home. This wasn't a woman going to help a neighbor hang curtains. This was someone on her way to a secret she couldn't wait to get back to. I stayed a few steps behind, just enough to stay out of her periphery. It wasn't intentional at first. I just froze when I saw where she was heading. Apartment 4B. His place. Dylan's door was already cracked, like he'd been waiting for her. She didn't knock like a guest. She knocked like she belonged there. A quick rhythm, too familiar to ignore. He opened the door. Grinning like he had no shame left in him. No hesitation. No fear. He looked past her, didn't even register me on the stairwell. Just leaned into the doorframe like he'd earned her. And she? She smiled. Dropped her tote by the threshold. Slipped off the hoodie she was wearing. Underneath, she had on one of my old t-shirts, the soft gray one with the faded concert logo she used to steal on Sundays when we'd sleep in, order takeout, and pretend the world didn't exist outside our third-floor windows. She wore that shirt. For him. I didn't breathe. Didn't move. Just watched the door close behind her and sealed what little was left of my doubt. I didn't need to catch them in the act. That moment was enough. A final, unambiguous betrayal captured between two creaking hinges and a hoodie sliding off her shoulders. No more wondering. No more analysis. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt. It was all real now. Not suspicion. Not paranoia. Not maybe. Just truth. Cold and disgusting. Still, I didn't rage. I didn't storm up the stairs or pound on the door like some idiot in a drama series. What would be the point? To see more? To get screamed at and gaslit into believing I was the problem? I didn't need a scene. I just needed a plan. So I pulled out my phone, steadied my hand, and took one photo. Just before the door clicked shut. Her stepping into his apartment in my shirt, barefoot, eyes lit up like a woman in love. That was all I needed. That was the moment my marriage died. I walked back down, groceries still in hand. My heart wasn't racing. If anything, it was slower than usual. Like something inside me had numbed out, preparing me for what had to come next. Back in the apartment, I didn't sit down. Didn't even take off my shoes. I set the groceries on the counter. Then went straight to my laptop. Step 1, joint accounts. Passwords changed. Alerts enabled. Every transaction of hers would ping my phone. For now. Step 2, the credit cards. Cancelled the ones we shared, transferred balances, locked her out of everything tied to my name. Step 3, the locksmith. Booked for 6 p.m. sharp. Told them to change the locks on every point of entry. Didn't ask for a quote. Just told them to do it. Extra fee. Worth it. Then I made a quiet call to my bank and moved a significant chunk of money into a private account I'd created 2 years ago when Tara insisted we simplify finances. I told her then it was for emergencies. Apparently, this qualified. She stayed upstairs for nearly 2 hours. I spent those 2 hours clearing the rest of my digital life of her fingerprints. Changed streaming logins, disconnected shared devices, reset the network name and password. Unlinked her phone from every smart device in the apartment. The Nest thermostat blinked when I rebooted it. Fresh start. By the time I heard the familiar creak of footsteps above me, I was already finished. The locksmith arrived early, bless him. Worked fast, too. Didn't ask questions. Maybe he knew. Maybe he'd seen the same expression on other men before me, the still, cold look of someone standing in the wreckage of a life and trying not to show it's burning. When he left, I sat down for the first time that day. And waited. She came home just after dusk. I heard the jingle of her keys, the metallic slide into the front door lock, and then the resistance. A few more jiggles. A pause. The sound of her phone buzzing once, then again. Likely trying to call me. I watched from the camera I'd installed inside the peephole, something I set up months ago when some packages were going missing. Ironic, really. She always joked that I was paranoid. Now, she was on the other side of the door, locked out of her own fantasy. She knocked. Not frantically, just firm enough to say she expected a response. I didn't give her one. Her face, dimly lit by the hallway bulb, went from confused to annoyed. Then to panic. She called again. Left a voicemail, probably full of questions, excuses, maybe even accusations. I muted the notifications. She tried the handle once more, then slid down against the door, defeated. But the part that stuck with me wasn't the look on her face, it was the shirt. My shirt. Wrinkled now. Probably still warm from wherever she'd been lying before she came back down here, hoping I hadn't noticed anything. That shirt used to mean something. It meant comfort. Sundays. Home. Now it looked like a costume. A disguise. Something she put on to feel like herself while becoming someone else entirely. I didn't unlock the door. Didn't even speak. I watched until she walked away, then powered off the camera. The apartment fell quiet again. Too quiet. But it was better than lies. She found the doormat first. It was the kind of detail most people wouldn't notice, unless they were walking toward the door expecting something safe, something unchanged, something that still welcomed them back. But this one didn't say, "Welcome." Not anymore. It said, "Hope he has a couch." Black letters. Bold font. Centered cleanly on a coarse beige mat. Delivered overnight. Custom ordered from a print shop that didn't ask questions and shipped without a receipt. That mat had more honesty in it than she'd offered me in weeks. She stood there longer than I thought she would, staring down at it like maybe if she blinked hard enough it'd turn back into the old one. The one she used to brush her shoes on before coming inside and telling half-truths over takeout. She didn't knock this time. Not right away. Her phone was already in her hand. She scrolled, thumb moving fast. Probably looking for a trace of sympathy. A lifeline. Then came the calls. One after another. Each ring echoing through the phone on my kitchen counter. Vibrations only. No sound. I let them all roll into silence. The text started next. First confused. Then pleading. Then defensive. A carousel of emotion that tried every tactic she had left: denial, guilt, manipulation, pity. She said she was just helping. Said I was imagining things. That I was overreacting and trying to destroy everything we'd built. Funny how quickly people forget who actually built it. She tried calling my mom. Then her mom. Then the mutual friends we shared but barely saw anymore. She didn't know that I'd already gotten ahead of her. A single group message had gone out that morning. Her parents. Her two sisters. A couple of mutuals we used to double date with. And, of course, my lawyer. Attached were three things: a clear photo, Tara in my shirt, walking into Dylan's apartment, a collection of timestamps from her call logs and text history I'd quietly backed up, and a neat little PDF file containing screen captures of creative time that lined up suspiciously well with my building's guest access logs. The message wasn't long. Just one sentence. Please direct all further communication to my attorney. I didn't name call. I didn't dramatize. I let the facts do what facts do best: speak without emotion, without spin, without apology. By the time Tara found the mat, her carefully rehearsed sympathy campaign had already crashed before takeoff. She didn't know that yet. She still thought she had an angle. Still thought she could turn this around. But silence has a weight to it. By morning, the weight had settled. No one responded to her. Not even her mother, who once cried at the thought of us arguing over birthday plans. That was louder than any screaming match we'd ever had. Louder than anything she said in those texts I wasn't reading. She thought she could spin it. That if she cried hard enough, someone would rescue her from the consequences. But you can't cry your way out of something when you're still wiping lipstick from your collar. She didn't know about the finances yet. I kept that quiet. Let her panic slowly, with each declined card, each locked account she couldn't access. Let her realize, piece by piece, that she wasn't just losing me. She was losing the lifestyle she built on my back. I left the apartment the next afternoon, stepped over the new mat, and walked past her without flinching. She was waiting by the elevator in sweatpants and that same hoodie she wore the day she went upstairs. Her eyes were swollen. Or maybe just tired. She looked at me like a dog that used to be let on the couch but knew it had done something wrong. I didn't stop. Didn't say a word. The elevator doors opened. I took the stairs. That night, a friend texted me a screenshot of Tara's Instagram. It was blank now. Profile photo gone. All posts archived or deleted. The bio, once filled with quirky emojis and motivational quotes, was now empty. That was new. She wasn't the type to go quiet. Not unless she had no one left to perform for. By the end of the week, I'd spoken to the building management. Asked about tenant turnover. Asked casually, of course. Turns out Dylan's lease was short-term. A trial run before moving in with a partner downtown. That detail made me pause. She wasn't the partner. She was the test run. A warm body. A fling before commitment. Disposable. And she didn't even know. Not yet. It would hit her soon. Maybe at 2 a.m. when he stopped answering. Maybe when she knocked and someone else opened the door. Or maybe when she realized she traded a steady life for a ghost with better cheekbones. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. She made her choice. She doubled down on it. And when it collapsed, she looked for someone else to blame. But that's the thing about betrayal, when you burn the bridge, you don't get to ask who lit the match. I went to sleep that night without checking my phone. Didn't need to. She had nowhere left to turn. Nowhere but up. And that, ironically, was the worst place she could look. There's something satisfying about taking back ground you once lost. Most people move on from betrayal by cutting ties, burning bridges, starting fresh somewhere else. I didn't. I didn't want distance. I wanted proximity. Precision. Closure that came not from forgetting, but from rebuilding right over the wreckage. Dylan didn't stay long. That didn't surprise me. Guys like him don't stick around unless there's something in it for them. Tara must have thought he'd ask her to move in, that their little fantasy on the 4th floor would evolve into something permanent. But permanence was never part of the plan for a man like that. He gave his notice quietly, probably while she was still clinging to the idea of late-night wine and shared playlists. The front desk clerk mentioned it in passing when I dropped by to pick up a package. I smiled and nodded. Then made my move. A quick call. A cash offer. No background check, no paperwork trail in my name. Just a rental under a corporate shell I'd used once before for freelance projects. Clean. Invisible. By the end of the week, apartment 4B was mine. I didn't even have to pack much. Most of what mattered had already been removed from the home below, what used to be our place. Now it was just hers. And barely that. She didn't know about the lease switch. No reason she would. As far as she knew, Dylan had gotten busy or gone distant. Maybe he ghosted. Maybe he promised to call and didn't. Whatever the story, she was still clinging to the hope that the next knock on his door would be welcome. But when she finally did knock, if she did, it wouldn't be him answering. It would be silence. Or worse, me. I didn't answer the door. I didn't taunt her or announce anything. That wasn't the point. The point was the sound. Footsteps. Mine. Every night. I didn't walk softly. I didn't wear socks. I let the boards creak just enough. Let drawers open and shut with that familiar thud. I moved chairs in the kitchen the way she used to when setting up for dinner. Sometimes I'd roll a suitcase across the floor, slow and deliberate. Nothing loud enough to raise complaints. Nothing illegal. Just enough noise to remind her, every single night, that someone lived above her. Someone who knew everything. Someone who didn't forget. I imagined her lying awake, watching the ceiling, wondering what was real and what was imagined. Wondering if it was still Dylan up there or if maybe, just maybe, I'd found a way back into her head, into her walls, into the air she breathed. She deserved that. It's strange, really, how quickly silence becomes a weapon. Not the yelling, not the confrontation, those are loud, temporary. But silence? That lingers. It forces people to sit in their own mess and listen to the echoes of what they destroyed. I kept my routine strict. Work in the mornings, gym in the afternoons, walk around the apartment late in the evening. Enough pacing to be noticed, but not traced. I left the lights on just enough for her to see shadows through the cracks in the blinds. Sometimes I'd play music. Not loudly. Just a few notes. Songs she used to love. Songs we danced to once in the kitchen when it rained. I wondered if she recognized them. Wondered if she cried. She stayed below. Squatting in what used to be home. The photos were gone from the walls, furniture slightly rearranged like she was trying to mark the space as her own, but it was hollow now. Everything in it was a reminder, of what she had, what she gave up, what she couldn't get back. Her social media stayed blank. Mutual friends had stopped checking in. Her family, from what I'd heard through second-hand sources, had pulled away. Nobody likes siding with a liar once the evidence is public. And I had made sure they'd seen all of it. I passed her once in the hallway. She looked thinner. Eyes sunken. Like someone constantly on edge but trying hard not to show it. She didn't look at me. Just adjusted her hoodie and walked the other direction. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I was already above her. Every time she walked into the bathroom and looked up at the ceiling, I was there. When she stood in the kitchen alone, stirring pasta for one, I was above her, opening and closing drawers. When she tried to fall asleep, her ceiling became my floor, and every shift in my chair, every step to the fridge, reminded her she had company. Unwanted company. There's a poetic cruelty to it. Not in the sense of revenge for the sake of pain, but in symmetry. She made her choices in that apartment. She broke something sacred beneath that roof. So I rebuilt above it. Not out of hate, but clarity. She needed to remember what consequences sound like. They sound like slow footsteps at midnight. They sound like chairs dragging quietly across the floor. They sound like someone living a better life above you, without you. I didn't smile when I thought about it. I didn't gloat. But every night, when I turned out the lights, I left one lamp on, facing the window. Just enough for her to see the outline of a man moving beyond the blinds. Not Dylan. Not anymore. Just me. Right where she left me. Only higher. I waited for the right night. The forecast called for a thunderstorm, strong winds, sheets of rain, the kind that rattles windows and soaks through skin in seconds. The kind that makes people feel small, exposed. Perfect. Everything had led to this. Every footstep above her ceiling. Every unanswered call. Every ounce of silence I'd fed her until she was starving for closure. I gave her just enough hope to believe I might offer it. A text, carefully worded. Just one last conversation, I said. One final chance to end things with dignity. She came up. Soaked to the bone, hair clinging to her cheeks, makeup barely holding its place. The elevator was still down, so she had to climb the stairs. Every step probably echoed in her mind with memories she hadn't earned the right to keep. Her eyes scanned the apartment as I opened the door. She'd never seen it like this: sleek furniture, sharp edges, everything minimal and cold. Nothing like the lived-in comfort of the place we once shared. This place reflected exactly who I'd become. Focused. Clean. Unforgiving. She stood in the entryway, hesitant. Her expression wore the aftermath of weeks spent unraveling. No foundation left, no safety net. Just a woman trying to salvage what she could from the ruins she created. I didn't speak much. There was no need. I let her feel the atmosphere. Let her choke on the cold air between us. Then I handed her the envelope. She looked at it like it might bite. Slowly peeled it open with trembling fingers. Inside, the divorce papers, finalized. A waiver of asset claim rights, already signed and notarized. She'd done that part herself weeks ago during what she believed was a harmless mediation session I'd set up to talk things through. She thought she was just reviewing terms. I'd slipped it in quietly, buried beneath legalese and emotional exhaustion. But the flash drive was what caught her attention. Small. Black. Harmless looking. Until she held it in her palm and her hand began to shake. She didn't know what it was. Not at first. But I did. It held the final nail in the coffin, the footage. Silent, black and white, time-stamped. From the day the elevator broke. From the exact moment she stepped inside Dylan's apartment, wearing my Sunday shirt, as the door closed behind her. The camera was tucked in the corner of the living room, one I'd placed discreetly 2 weeks before everything came to a head. Her expression changed as realization set in. The mask of tired innocence cracked into full-blown panic. Her eyes darted to mine, searching for weakness. For softness. But she found none. She moved suddenly. Tried to knock the flash drive from my hand. Her arms swung wild, unfocused, just enough to crash into a wine glass on the table beside her. Red spilled across the hardwood like blood in slow motion. It found the power strip on the floor. I didn't move. A hum. A crackle. Then the lights flickered. Smoke. A single puff of gray curled upward as the liquid met the exposed plug. A sudden flash of orange sparked at the corner, licking the bottom of the curtain. Her curtain. The one she helped Dylan hang, the same exact design she once begged me to replace in our old apartment because it was too feminine for our aesthetic. Fire alarms screamed. She froze. I didn't. I pointed to the door. She ran. Barefoot. Hair dripping. Face streaked with rain and sweat and embarrassment. Down the stairs, into the night, past neighbors who now had more questions than they'd ever had answers. I stayed behind. Watched the smoke roll along the ceiling, controlled but undeniable. Enough for the fire department to respond. Enough to draw attention. Enough to leave a mark, but not enough to destroy anything vital. Just the curtain. Just a few singed floorboards. Just enough. The firefighters did their job. Quick. Efficient. Polite. Asked the right questions. Took my statement. And when the sun came up the next day, so did the headlines. Electrical fire in luxury condo uncovers hidden surveillance, alleged infidelity captured in ongoing divorce case. The footage had been stored in a cloud backup linked to my business account. Password protected. Secure. But when things get submitted as part of a legal discovery process, files tend to find their way into curious hands. It went viral within hours. The still frame was damning, her mid-step, caught between loyalty and lust, entering the apartment like it was hers. The audio wasn't needed. The silence said enough. People did what people do. Screenshotted. Shared. Memed. Speculated. Her name trended on platforms she once used to chase sponsorships. Her LinkedIn account disappeared. The podcast she'd been developing got pulled before it aired. The personal brand she'd built, one quote graphic and Pinterest board at a time, burned up in the same flame she sparked on my floor. Reputation, ashes. Just like the curtains she picked. I didn't feel proud. Not exactly. But I felt clean. There's a difference between revenge and justice. One's messy. The other is precise. This wasn't about rage anymore. It was about balance. About finishing what she started. And so I sat in my chair that night, the scorched edge of the curtain bagged and tagged, my insurance claim already filed, neighbors whispering behind closed doors, and felt something I hadn't in weeks. Stillness. Peace. Power, not over her, but over myself. Over my own story. Because I hadn't just thrown her out. I'd rewritten the ending. Burned the chapter. Stamped it with proof. And ensured that no matter where she went, what she did, who she tried to become next, she would never escape the echo of footsteps above. Mine. Forever.